The revived Bronco has now been around for a while and it turned out to be a big hit. The long-awaited comeback was for a reason, and after a few years of exploitation, many wonder about its reliability and longevity, about whether it can fill the shoes of its iconic predecessor. We believe it can, and to prove it, we present to you 7 reasons why the Ford Bronco will last more than 150,000 miles and be worth every dollar. Number 7. Powertrain. To some, this may sound odd at first, given the reliability score of some of these engines, but in the long run, the Bronco's engines are durable enough to withstand decades of exploitation. Yes, the Bronco's engine lineup isn't just characterized by plenty of torque and great driving dynamics, it promises longevity as well. Let's take the base 2.3-liter Turbo 4 as an example. Yes, that engine did have a couple of problems in the past, including the infamous turbo wastegate failure, but the engine itself has been around long enough to overcome all of its design flaws. Problems are behind it, and now with a polished design and updated tech, it promises a lot in terms of longevity. After all, it's been in use for years in the case of the Bronco's sibling, the Ranger pickup, and it turned out quite durable, with several examples exceeding 250,000 miles without major issues. The same thing is with the optional 2.7-liter V6. There were some series of engines with problems and low mileage failures, but once again, that should be resolved nowadays. Moreover, that V6 seems to be sturdier compared to most other modern engines from the Blue Oval Company, considering that it features a graphite iron block instead of aluminum, while internals are forged. In other words, it should last even longer and ensure that the Bronco runs smoothly in decades to come. The same thing is with the 3-liter twin-turbo V6 which powers the Bronco Raptor, which hasn't shown bigger issues so far and should last as long as other engines in the lineup. So if you worry about the Bronco's longevity, the powertrain shouldn't be your concern. Number 6. Suspension setup. Another concern that you might have about the Bronco's longevity is the suspension setup, but from what we can see, there is no room for worry. At the time Ford was working on the Bronco's revival, it was clear that the Wrangler would be a direct rival, a legendary off-roader that wasn't exactly the most comfortable and drivable car on the road. So Ford engineers wanted to do things a bit differently. They installed a more refined suspension, one that will provide much better on-road ride quality but won't compromise off-road capability. The major difference is at the front, where unlike the Wrangler's solid axle, there's an independent front suspension with twin A-arms and coil springs that provide better handling and stability. The rear end rather relies on the solid axle and a 5-link setup, and even though things are a bit more refined compared to the Wrangler, that doesn't mean any of these components are fragile and that they won't last long enough. No, the suspension setup is rugged and durable, and most likely it won't require any major repair during the Bronco's lifetime. It'll ensure that the Bronco outlasts modern SUVs and keeps pace with the toughest off-roaders around, primarily the aforementioned Wrangler, as well as the Toyota 4Runner, which has just been redesigned and seems as tough as it always been. Number 5. Proven off-road features. The Bronco is still a pretty fresh vehicle loaded with all kinds of latest tech features, but at the same time it's an off-roader, a vehicle that needs to be rugged, durable, and reliable. That's exactly what Ford engineers had in mind when designing it, especially its chassis, suspension, drivetrain, and other off-road features. These are mostly borrowed from the Ranger pickup, a model that, although redesigned, used largely the same components for more than a decade. That's right, the Australian spec Ranger has been around since 2011, and the drivetrain, for example, hasn't changed much through these years. Differentials are rugged and ready to withstand the most challenging situations, while the same could be said for the rest of the components, including lockers that are available in higher trims. Instead of a fancy modern all-wheel drive, the Bronco uses a classic 4-wheel drive system that promises durability and longevity. And yes, the Bronco comes with a solid portion of electronics, with things like various traction modes, hill descent control, etc. But once again, most of these are carried from the true and tested Ranger pickups, so we're pretty sure that all of these off-road features will operate seamlessly in years to come. Number 4. Body on frame construction. The longevity and durability of a vehicle mostly depend on its construction, and in the Bronco's case, there's nothing to worry about. It will last for decades, because this is not a modern SUV, a crossover that rides on a unibody platform. No, this is an old-school truck-based SUV with body-on-frame construction, and such a design approach doesn't just mean that it's capable of towing more, this means that its construction can withstand the toughest conditions during exploitation. Off-roading, desert trails, rock crawling, or overlanding, this SUV can withstand it all and easily outlast modern car-based classmates. Of course, riding on a body-on-frame construction brings a couple of limitations as well, but that's the price you pay for ruggedness. The Bronco leans in corners and isn't the most comfortable and engaging vehicle to drive around town, but on the other hand, it will last and it will be able to tackle any kind of terrain, even after years of exploitation with high mileage. Number 3. Endless customization options. As mentioned, the new Bronco was revived to compete with the Wrangler, so just like Jeep's iconic SUV, it came with a full load of customization options. It's also available either as a 2- or 4-door SUV with removable panels, softer hardtop, and a whole bunch of special editions, which often remain in production for no more than a year or two. You probably wonder why we're talking about all of this and what it has to do with vehicle longevity. Well, not only that the Bronco will outlast most other modern cars, but it'll also preserve most of its value, which makes it an even better deal. And that's where endless customization options make their impact. These special editions can not only raise the value in the future, but also allow for more convenient use of spare parts in case you need some of these one day. With different kinds of body panels, color options, and other unique features, it's clear that future owners will have way more possibilities to customize their own example without paying expensive visits to specialized body shops, aftermarket shops, etc. Number 2. Manual transmission. Okay, this may be a bit controversial considering the, at the moment, questionable reliability of Ford's new 7-speed gearbox, but in the long run, things are pretty clear. Yes, there were some cases of rattle and failure at low mileage, but we presume that these design flaws have already been solved. So with that in mind, a modern SUV like this with a manual gearbox shouldn't just be more fun to drive, but also more durable and cheaper to maintain. Because we all know how automatic gearboxes can cost a fortune to get fixed. With standard transmission, things are quite the opposite. They're simpler and therefore cheaper to maintain. Of course, you'll have to replace the clutch occasionally, maybe it's synchronous too, but all that is still nothing compared to the cost of repairing or replacing automatic transmission. Because modern automatic gearboxes are complex, and there's no way they will last as long as the old units did several decades ago. Finally, with manual gearboxes becoming a rarity, it's clear that at some point in the future, such examples will be highly valued, so their resale price will most likely be notably higher compared to models with automatic transmissions. And speaking of resale value, let's head to the next chapter. Number 1. Resale value. Finally, the reason why buying a new Ford Bronco is going to be worth every dollar isn't just because it'll last long. No, after all the fun you have with it, it'll still have a strong resale value. If you look at the current trends, it holds its price pretty well, and the latest reports suggest that even after 5 years, it'll preserve more than half of its original price. But that's the short term. In the long run, things are expected to be drastically different. Just like every car that starts off young and eventually becomes an old-timer, the Bronco's price will be falling for some time, but then it'll start to go up and get to the point where models like the old Bronco in good condition can sometimes cost a fortune. And the thing with the new Bronco is that there are many reasons to believe that it's going to become a desirable young and then old-timer. First of all, we're talking about one of the most iconic nameplates in Ford's history. Then there's the fact that there aren't many genuine off-road SUVs on the market today, and they will only become rarer with the further expansion of the current market trends, such as the growing popularity of crossovers and electrification. Soon enough, you probably won't be able to buy a new vehicle like this, and that's when models like the Bronco will become sought-after, expensive classics. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.